Welcome to Teaching Tuesdays for our Casa Luna Canine community. Luna's down there saying her hellos. This is where we talk about stuff we have written in the newsletter. So we got Alan behind the camera is going to ask some questions and keep me pointed in the right direction. And if you guys have any questions, you can always click or email or post your own video and ask questions. What do we got today?
Okay, so we started out with a statement with some controversy. No piece of equipment will stop our dogs from pulling on leash. None. Anything you want to add to that?
So basically, that's written to be controversial, is that there is no single piece of equipment that is going to be your end all to any training behavior. We'll talk more in depth about what those pieces of equipment are as we go through this Teaching Tuesday today, but it really comes from marketing. Every marketer, product marketers out there love to say, look, buy this one thing, all of your dog troubles will be solved. Whether it's a food puzzle to stop resource guarding or a no-pull harness or whatever the equipment is, there's 1,000 things. You'll see this piece of equipment fixes this behavior in immediately. And I'm just here to say, boo, it's actually not true. But I put it out there as controversial because we'll talk about how we approach this, but there is no single piece of equipment, no matter what it is, that is going to stop your dog from pulling on leash.
Okay, so we'll cover 3 myths among perhaps many, but we'll cover 3 of them today. And the first one is a harness will stop my dog from pulling.
Yes. Our trainers, God, we will go down on our sword for this. There are trainers that say you absolutely cannot have a back clip harness. Back clip harnesses promote pulling. You must have a front clip harness. Other people say you can't have a front clip harness because your dog will never walk in a straight line. So there's a lot of controversy, and we love to create ourselves in marketing what's our approach. But here's the thing with a harness. They all seem to read no pull. And if they were all no pull, we'd be able to buy them, and you would never see a dog out there pulling on leash again because we have a no pull harness on. So here's the conundrum that we go through. A back clip harness is one that clips on its back. People think that this is what trainers say, that promotes pulling. So what that's basically saying is you put this harness on your dog, you clip a leash on, and then magically you have a sled dog that has been trained to pull, which is ridiculous. Sled dogs are trained to pull that, and they have lots of equipment, and they're chasing the dog in front of them for a different discussion. But a back clip harness does not promote pulling. In fact, I love them for many reasons, especially with a big dog, because the leash is right near my hand. I can keep a nice short leash, and my dog's right by my side. There's none of this crazy wandering off and getting into all kinds of stuff. So I love those back clip harnesses. Front clip harness is what I was trained with, and I love the front clip harnesses for different reasons. Now, let me just show you. Okay.
You were trained with a front clip harness?
I was trained on a front clip harness.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll show you that.
Okay.
When I was taught dog training, we did front clip harnesses. So a lot of you have seen this for mine. I love it because it's one thing. Their head goes through. But here's the idea. If I were the dog, no comments, I'd slip through here, and the clip is right here on the chest. So what's great about that is if I started pulling, I kind of get pulled, back towards you. And that's why trainers love these front clip harnesses, because they say, hey, when your dog pulls, it pulls them back towards you. Although true, also I've seen a dog pull so hard that they actually walk backwards and then slink down, and this whole thing comes off, and I am left there with a beautiful front clip harness and my leash. My dog is off to the other side. So the theory of a front clip harness is that it pulls, when your dog pulls, it turns them towards you. That can work. With my particular dog, she's 80 pounds. If she wants to pull, she's going to pull with a front clip, a back clip, a side clip, anything. She will pull if she sees something that triggers her enough to run. So that's the front clip harness. What I also like, if I go to my little stockpile here, is I use a double clip harness. So if this is the dog's head and it's in here and it clips on both sides, this is a back clip and a front clip. So what it does for me is I've got now 2 points of contact. So if she pulls, I've got double, so there's safety. It should one break, I've got a second one. But it's more than that. It's also, I can help when I'm doing figure 8 walks. I can give cues from different angles. I don't overdo a cue, like just if I get scared and I end up putting too much pressure on the top or bottom. We don't overdo that kind of cue pull. So there's so many things we can do with the double clip leash, which is what I love. The other thing is, hey, if I undo one of these, now I've got a nice long leash. I can clip it onto itself. I can do double. I could walk 2 dogs. So I love the double point. But this is a different kind of harness. So the bottom line is no harness is going to stop your dog from pulling, whether it's a front clip, side clip, or back clip, because basically what it's doing is the safety feature why we like harnesses is when my dog pulls, it's across their chest, so it's not strangling them. There are a lot of accidents where we can break or fracture, pop, whatever, our dog's trachea because they're pulling. And if you just push a little bit right on your trachea, you'll see how uncomfortable that is. And if that was really strong, we can actually harm our dogs with just a flat collar. So that's why we started loving harnesses. But harnesses in and of themselves won't stop pulling. So.
Okay, so
That's that.
harnesses by themselves aren't the answer. I got one though. Pinch, prong, choke collars are self-correcting and will stop pulling.
If you guys have ever talked to me, I will get on my soapbox about pinch, prong, choke collars. So what is a pinch, prong, choke? I happen to have one. All of them, actually. Okay. So a pinch collar, I don't know if you can see that. It's it's not the big prongs, but it's still, when it closes down, it's going to pinch skin. So you use it around there, you close, ow. It is meant to pinch and cause pain. That's pinch collar. Prong collars, even better. If you can look at that, it's got these nasty prongs that actually stick right into the neck and also pinch and cause quite a bit of pain. So, ow. That was silly. Okay, so that actually hurt. This one, these are both bought off a client who was given both of them in puppy class because her puppy wasn't listening. So can you imagine? And then they covered them like this just so nobody else knew what they were doing. So that way you can use your abusive things in quiet and no one will know what you're doing. So pinch, prong, choke collars we've all seen. They're like slip leads. They go short when you pull them and then they're supposed to let go, but cause a lot of pain around the neck. And shock collars are unacceptable in my book. That shock collars are like you're basically electrocuting your dog. People call them, nope. They say, Heather, that's not it. It's a stim collar. It's an e-collar. All it does is stimulate and get my dog's attention. I'm drawing the line at if you are putting electricity through my body, that is a shock. Now, why don't they work? Or why? The theory behind why they do work is self-correcting. So if I've got that around my neck and I pull, it hurts, and somehow magically I know not to pull anymore because it doesn't hurt when I stop pulling. The hard part is you will get a result with these painful aversive methods. It may not be the result you want, but why do people love them? And why do we keep with this myth? They're illegal in so many countries, by the way, but not in the US. A lot of major stores are not carrying them anymore. But they're based on if you've watched our podcast on negative, positive punishment reinforcement, they are based on positive reinforcement. They're adding pain to stop a behavior. So it's called positive punishment. Self-correcting means I don't have to pop that leash or hit my dog or be physically or verbally intimidated. The dog does it on its own. Ow, it hurts. Dog stops. and stops pulling and the pain is released. Problem is dogs don't always relate that pain to pulling on leash. They didn't know. They just started walking faster and it hurt. They might have put that pain thinking it was caused by the other dog they were trying to go greet, or by the bird flying by, or the manhole cover that they just walked over. They don't always know where the pain came from. So now they're going to get generalized fear, or they'll get real specific fear around, ooh, I got that shock again when I'm near this oak tree. So oak trees are bad. They don't equate it with, oh, I got shocked, I should go back to my owner. If by any chance a shock collar does work and they come back to you, it's because the dog's freaked out and they're coming to you for support. If they ever figure out that the shock or pain is coming from you, you've just annihilated all trust you have in your dog. So the myth that these are self-correcting, I mean, I will just go on for hours about it. I know. Because to me, it's the human equivalent of abuse, is that very often if a person is abused, they will be very docile and lovely around the abuser because they want to be submissive and they're just saying anything to not cause that pain. And then our human brains go, ooh, a docile, submissive dog is a good dog. And, because they're not acting out. What happens, though, is that dog who has been abused or experienced pain in aversive training, we may say, oh, they're really good around me, but then I go to a dog park and they lash out at the next dog because they're insecure. Or the fallout is what we call it. The fallout is going to be around your child or around a smaller animal in the house. And our great, well-behaved, docile dog has so much pent-up energy that eventually they just go, I have to lash out. I'm so frustrated because I don't know where that pain's coming from. So that to me is in the aversive. I will even call it abusive. I know that's very controversial. There will be trainers that get in touch with me on this and say, that's not true, I've had success. I will just always question it. But again, I work with behavior issues, and I'm a behavior specialist. So I see all the fallout from this stuff and not the great pieces. So to me, it's abusive. It's not self-correcting. The dog will know it's coming from you. And then we're developing leash fear, walking fear, collar fear, all that kind of stuff. So it's not going to work. And I would say don't even try. So.
Yeah, sounds right. Let's move on to the last of our myths that we'll cover today. Last of many, but the ones we'll cover here. And this one, retractable leashes help dogs learn not to pull because they allow the dog freedom to explore, thus reducing their anxiety and need to pull.
Ooh, I love our marketers.
Freedom.
And if they're free, they're not going to pull, which is true. So if your dog is 30 feet away from you and they broke the leash, they're not pulling because they're free. The thing with it, retractable leashes and long leashes. But first, let's look at retractable leashes. Retractable leashes are the ones, they're usually pretty thin. They come down, they have a little thumb stop so we can stop them from retracting. So two things, a safety, usually they're really, really thin leashes. And so our dog goes, if they do decide to pull, they pull really hard. And I've seen so many of those leashes just snap, especially after years of going in and out of or months of going in and out of these little retractable things. I see them pull, they break, and now you've got your dog has moved on. The other thing is that I've never come across a human that is consistent in their length. So what we're doing is letting our dog go, they're out, and then we stop, and then we kind of catch up with them a little bit, and then we go out and we stop it at 6 feet, and then we stop it at 2 feet, and we stop it at 3.5 feet. And our dog is just like, I don't know when am I going to get that jerk that comes back? Like, it's absolutely unknown. So if you've got a really confident, awesome dog, that could work. But if you've got a normal to fearful dog, often it just creates frustration. Because I'm like, look, I got 6 feet out before, and now I'm getting popped back. I got 2 feet out, and now I'm getting popped back. Suddenly there's other dogs around, and now, I'm getting held straight in. I can't even say hi, can't complete all my pieces. So that's where retractable leashes become a safety issue, and we're really inconsistent with them. So they don't stop pulling, they just create confusion. that makes sense. So that's part of the myth of the retractable leashes. Now there are some things with long leashes, and when you hear people talk about sniff walks, those are really interesting because a long leash is something anywhere 10, 15, they go up to 30 feet, longer piece. It's basically like being off leash. So you can give your dog room to roam. But again, not if your dog's pulling. So like a retractable leash, a long leash, if they're 15 feet ahead of me and they start pulling or doing something, I have no control over them. If they know leave it and they come right back to me, if they know recall and they're all consistent, you've got a perfectly well-behaved dog, you're probably not listening to this video. But if you are, awesome. You have done amazing leash training, and that's key. But truthfully, most people listening to this video are talking about the dog behavior issues that they've gotten. When my dog is 15 to 30 feet away from me on this tiny little thread, I don't have any control to bring them back. And the freedom part is if I were consistent and consistently loose and just followed my dog around, that means they're calm. And that means they're sniffing around and they're getting comfortable. And sniffing absolutely helps the dog become comfortable, but not if they're pulling. If I get to a new environment and I got my double clip leash on my dog and she's pulling me around and I'm going there, that's not a relaxing sniff walk. All sniffing is doing is going, and that's a dog, and that's a dog, and that's a dog, and that's a dog, and there's that smell, and it just ends up increasing her arousal. So what I want to do is work with her and then calm her down, and then once she's calm, maybe we can do a little sniffing. But you know your dog, right? I mean, that's the key is know what your dog needs, because if you see your dog sniffing out and going on this relaxing sniff walk, then that's lovely. If you've got a bloodhound and you went on a sniff walk with a retractable leash, you're out there probably for 43 days, on a sniff walk. That dog is not going to stop. So that's where it's, I think there's a lot of myth around this, like freedom doesn't allow them to pull. And that's what retractable leashes and those really long lines do. I wanted to show you two of my favorite things are actually, something's getting eaten down there. This little short, all it is a handle. This and a back clip leash, I can walk. If my arms are down by my side and this, I can walk, a normal to mid-sized dog with just this. And now they're right at my side. And I don't have to be pulling them around.
So you're saying that hooks into the harness?
Yeah, this can hook right in the harness. It can hook on their collar.
Okay.
Can hook anywhere. But this with a back clip harness is really nice because the back clip is up taller and that hooks right onto it. And you can get all kinds of padded handles. This one happened to come with long corded leash. This other one is a nice short leash. This was made for me when I did my first service dog training. This just goes right around your arm. So now there's so many reasons I love this, is that I get to walk. But it's also made for, like, if I was in a wheelchair and needed my arms, and this clips on, but I usually just end up holding it here. But it's nice, short. There's no reason the dog needs to be more than 4 feet away from me, not even a 6 foot. There are times, I get it, wherever you are, you want a 6 foot because your dog needs to go do their business somewhere away. But, for most of us, 4 feet is going to be long enough. So these are the ones I like. They're really strong. They're not even like those bungee leashes that you see that they're nice because why do we have bungee leashes? Because if your dog pulls, I don't get my hand pulled off. There's a little give there. But the thing is, the give is also allows my dog to get that little running leap and allows them to leap another foot or two, get momentum. So that's the same thing with long leashes or retractable. If I'm out on a nice, calm sniff walk and I have a 30-foot leash and my dog is 10 feet ahead and they see something, they start running, they've got a 20-foot gain on me. And then when they stop, like you can only imagine, my arm is going to come right out of that socket. So these are some of my favorite leashes, but they're nice, short, solid, because if I'm training my dog how to walk on leash, I don't need them way out there. And, that's where it comes down to, depends. If your dog's calm and behaves on leash, you probably have already turned off this video.
Yeah, and on the retractable one, I have to admit, when I first saw those many years ago, I was like, oh, that's actually a pretty good idea. That's kind of one of those Shark Tank things, and
Best of both worlds.
Yeah, and then I was like, well, But what happens if the dog is running and I press the button? And what happens? Am I clotheslining my dog at that point?
Absolutely.
Or what is going on there? You know?
Absolutely. Or clotheslining your dog and probably hurting your thumb because it's going to pull.
Yeah.
And then chances are it snaps and off it goes. But
So I have-
yeah, they're great. And if you've got a well-behaved dog on leash, they're fine because it does give your dog a roaming. And then if you're like, okay, now it's time to reel my dog in, they're nice and calm. But for the most part, for training, we're going to create confusion and get them way too far ahead of us.
So real quick, with this equipment and really probably mostly any equipment, what are we looking for, with respect to our dog? Is it comfort? Is it...
So the three things that we look for are, it's got to be comfortable on your dog, which means any kind of, you don't want it chafing. We don't want it blurring their vision. So head harnesses, we don't want it stuck up under their eyes. My dog, being a big pitty breed, has a big fat head and a tinier body. So you have to do a lot of adjustments that I don't want it mostly chafing under the armpit if we're out walking. And I don't want it, cutting up on their throat by any way, shape, or form. So it's comfort. You need to know your dog's needs. So I happen to have a dog who has a very desensitized head. So I can shove literally, she shoves her head through a tiny little harness opening and doesn't have a problem with it. So I could use a harness that she has to shove her head through and then I can clip it on. A lot of dogs are not going to go through that effort to literally be smashed in the face. So if your dog doesn't like that, then you've got to get a harness like I showed you that has the big opening that they can just slip their head through. Also depends on your abilities. I like very simple things because I can clip it with one hand. I don't like the harnesses that they have to step into, and we've got to do a whole routine of standing there and being calm and making sure. I want my dog to be calm, so forget that comment. But I want it to work with my dog. So if they've got to stand there and I've got to put them 2 legs up and really get them dressed and tie knots and bows on it, if I've got a nice calm dog, that'll work. If you've got a dog that's highly excited to go out for a walk, I want it to be nice, quick, short, so that we set them up for success. So it's really about comfort, your dog's needs, and then the number one thing is training. That it is always going to come down to training your dog to walk on leash. If they're out there pulling like that and yanking me around and not listening and being reactive, they've given me all the information I need to know. And that is, I don't have the skills to be in this environment on a leash. And if we've introduced equipment to our dog that's caused harm or pain and suffering or frustration or anything other than a great experience, then I've added to something that already has enough pressure to it. I've added more pressure, and now I've got to undo all those things because I've been rehearsing bad walk behavior for a month, year, many years, maybe in some of our parts. And now I've got to undo all that. And so it really comes down to training. And that's why we say no piece of equipment is actually going to change your dog and make them not pull.
Yeah, and I heard you talk about this a little bit earlier, but in this case, with all this equipment, so why does every time I introduce something new, it seems to change my dog's behavior? It seems to work.
I know, and that's the problem. So we say it's not the problem. So what's happening in that is, yes, a new piece of equipment will or can change your dog's behavior. But why is that? It's not that this is a no-pull harness. It's I'm used to having something around my neck. I've become conditioned to that. Now I've got something around my body. So now there's 2 things. My dog is having a whole different sensation, all different sensory input. It's new associations. It's I'm around this, I'm wearing a harness that maybe feels weird, or I'm wearing something around my head. And I don't mind it because I've been conditioned to it, but it's just new. And so the beauty of that is it gives us that window, little crack in the window, door, whatever, that now our dog's calm enough to listen and we can start teaching great behavior. But I can tell you, I've seen time and time again, a new piece of equipment is introduced and, it's a head harness, which is kind of those gentle leaders. And my dog's perfect at the beginning. And then, he's starting to pull and his head's getting pulled this way. And I watch dogs that walk like this, and they're getting pulled back this way. Or I've watched dogs do an entire 180 flip, and they're just pulling back the other way. They will eventually revert to a behavior. We've talked about them slipping harnesses, all kinds of stuff. So a new piece of equipment will create new associations with your dog. And the other piece of that is the factor is that the handler's confidence is huge. So you give me something that I think is no pull, I tend to not let it pull, meaning they start pulling and I go, oh, something's wrong. And I go inside or I stop the walk and I go, wait, this isn't what's supposed to be happening. So I'm also on high alert. And so I can change my dog's behavior by the way that I'm changing my behavior. So I'm more confident because I'm having a new experience. Maybe my dog who's a big puller, I can feel like, oh, I actually have a little more control if I've got a harness on. So now I can calm down. Hey, what are we doing? One moment. I know, I hate it too. This is an electric collar I was going to show, but I hate it so much and Luna's going to eat it. So this is one of those that people will tell me all the time. It's not a shock collar. Like, have you tried it? Go ahead and put it on your neck. Everyone goes, no, I've tried it on my arm. No, not on your, put it on your neck. Tell me how great it is. And tell me when it's zapped that you're going to go do the proper behavior if you don't know what the behavior was in the first place. So anyway, Luna was just eating that, which I should give it to her and just let her eat it. But I still use it for demo purposes. So those are the two things that it comes down to is it's a new sensation for the dog, which is why it works. So a new sensation, new whole conditioning to it. And then I have more confidence as a handler because, so the two of those combinations often give us that window of training opportunity. And that's why new equipment can work. And if we've rehearsed a behavior we don't want over and over and over, I say first thing to do is change a piece of equipment because that's how dogs learn. They're so contextualized. We change one thing and it can be brand new. So we change a piece of equipment. That's the best window to saying, hey, I got a brand new day to work with my dog. And that's where it comes down to really the end all be all is getting that relationship with your dog, knowing what your dog's behavior, what behavior they've been rehearsing, what I've helped them to rehearse, and help them to rehearse other kinds of behavior.
So, so new equipment can be, a help. It can help if you introduce new equipment. You can maybe that's a pathway to behavior change. But I'm also hearing that the handler has a big role.
Handler has 100% of the role.
All on the equipment. You can't just change the equipment and hey, something new is happening. It's the handler is involved.
It's
committed.
Always the handler. There's a great book called The Other End of the Leash, or there's a lot of training on that, and that's what we look at with Buddy Basics and some of our stuff is looking at the effect we have on our dog. And that's Castellina Canines, dog training, human learning, because it's always about the human. And it gives us an opportunity to say, well, what am I teaching my dog? And the biggest thing, like when we're talking about no pull and leash, starts as a puppy, because as a puppy, they're tiny, they're cute. We let them on a leash. We let them go jump up on people and run around, and they're not doing any harm. And then they grow, and we go, well, I guess that's not appropriate anymore. So we start pulling them back, and they approach somebody, and I start yanking the leash, and I'm doing leash pops because I don't know what else to do. And suddenly I go, my dog isn't listening to me anymore. So I get bigger equipment and bigger changes. My dog still isn't listening to me. And it's because what's happening is, like, when they were little and allowed to greet, they got to be a dog and they had that freedom. And now I start putting limitations on it because they're acting out inappropriately, or they're not just doing a calm greeting, they're doing an over-the-top greeting. And so instead of keeping an appropriate distance and just walking by, I let my dog interact and it's inappropriate. And then I start pulling the leash, which is making them hate their equipment and leash because it's annoying. They can't be free. And so what do we get is, number one thing is my dog doesn't listen to me anymore. He pulls on leash. So I can't use the leash. I need them off leash. Then we got a whole other set of problems, which we'll talk about some other day. But that it's really our human side. So yes, a proper piece of equipment that doesn't cause pain or harm or any adverse effects can be a life changer, and it can switch up how we interact with our dog. But if improperly introduced, meaning we just take this new piece of equipment and shove it on my dog and expect it to make a change. That's not going to work. I'm still creating fear and anxiety. So it's properly introducing the equipment to our dog through conditioning, through games-based, through you only get the dog when you're a good girl. Good girl, you get the, oh, hi, who's a good girl? That's a very good girl. So, here's a good girl. Now you get to play with the harness. Now it's back. Oh, good girl gets the harness. And then it comes away. So we can introduce these in games-based ways that make a new piece of equipment not scary and fun. And that goes all the way down to grooming equipment. A brush is not going to groom your dog. You still have to use the brush. So a harness, anything is not going to fix your dog's behavior, but it's a tool. And any tool, when used properly, can be great. Except, I will tell you, there is no proper use of aversive training in my world. And that's the pinch, prong, shock, anything that causes pain and harm to our dog. There's just no reason for it. That's a total human way of, I need a quick fix and I need my dog to listen to me, but we haven't taught them anything. We've just taught them to be scared of us. And that's just not how I choose to have a relationship with my dog.
Okay. I'll pretty much cover it for this week. Anything else? And on a positive note.
Stay tuned. And make sure you're watching. We give our free newsletters and training tips. Join our community. And most of all, have that great relationship with your dog. Be calm, be confident, and stay connected. And we will see you next week.
See ya.